Before we start, I want to request all the participants to stay tuned with us till the end, as a momentous surprise eagerly awaits each and every one of you. Your presence till the end promises an extraordinary experience you won't want to miss. Apps. Apps are the fingerprints of innovation, each one unique, telling a story of creativity, problem solving, and endless possibilities. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Tech Accelerate 2.0, a virtual technology acceleration program designed to provide in depth knowledge and insights into the latest trends and technologies in the industry. I'm Dhruv Sharma, thrilled to be your host and guide throughout the program. Today, we delve into the world of app development where innovation meets functionality. Whether you are a seasoned developer or a curious beginner, this session promises insights, resources, and the keys to unlock the potential of creating your own digital solution. Now, without a further ado, let me introduce you to our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Abhishek Mishra. Abhishek Mishra is an Android enthusiast currently at Zomato, guiding you into the realm of modern Android development. With a keen curiosity about layout performance in Android, Abhishek is a proficient Android developer in both Kotlin and Java. He works in app utilizing architecture components such as Room, LiveData, ViewModel, Dagger 2, Glide, and more. We are honored to have Mr. Abhishek as a speaker today, and we are confident that his expertise and insights will provide valuable learnings to all attendees. Get ready to embark on a journey of discovery and innovation in the ever evolving landscape of app development. I would like to request Mr. Abhishek to commence this event.
Cool. Just to confirm, I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are audible.
Cool. Starting off, so I'll be sharing my screen. Just a second. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Where so everyone, you've gotten a small intro about me. So I'm a BPIT pass out. I graduated in 2022. This is my second job. And yep, starting with the session, so we'll be covering the introduction, objective, scope of Android development, and most important question that all of you might have: how do I get a job, and what all do I need to learn, and then a small conclusion for whatever I'll be saying for the next few minutes. So starting with the things we'll cover. So who am I will be the first thing. Then why you should choose Android development, or why actually I chose Android development, and then how what are the different tech stacks that we can do Android or mobile development using, and how do we get started. First of all, as I'm already introduced, so I'm working at Zomato right now, and I've been doing Android development for the last 3 years. I started off with very small internships, companies that you might not even have heard of, and then I made a switch to come to Zomato. And I'm a self-taught Android dev. I've never taken any course from any edtech or something similar to learn Android development. It was a free torrent course that I started from. I didn't even pay for that course. And to coming to the part where different parts of getting into Android development. So Android is just a platform. We also have iOS, we also have web, and we also have PWAs, progressive web apps. So there are multiple tech stacks in the market right now. One is Flutter, other one is Swift, and the third, the primary one that I use is Kotlin. So I'll be giving a small intro about each of them. Kotlin as of now is single platform only. It only supports Android, and the part of Kotlin that supports multi-platform is not proficient as of now. They are just building it right now. They are not using it any in production applications. Swift is native Android development, so it is similar. Like we have Kotlin for Android, Swift is the one used for iOS. So if you use Swift for your application, you'll be able to build iOS apps. But once again, you cannot use the same source code to run it on an Android device. Flutter is a cross-platform application development, and it is quite simpler to use as compared to Kotlin and Swift because it deals with a lot of stuff on the high level. It does not go into the much detail while depending on a single platform. You can write the same source code and it will run on either web, Android, or iOS uh, without any specific problem. So first we'll cover about the pros of native development. Now, since I covered all three of these, and coming back to the point, yep, I forgot to mention this most important point. Key, the number of jobs as of right now, or the number of learning opportunities very high in Kotlin or Swift. So we have a lot of big companies that have not even started with cross-platform development. Zomato is one of them. We have tried it in a few small projects, but our main specialty still lies in the native development, the main app that you use or whatever apps we have in our system. Swift is also being used right now for our iOS apps are written on Swift. That is what we use for either our consumer apps or Linkit also. For Flutter, we have tried some small applications, but I'll come to the point why aren't we or any other company in the industry jumping directly to Flutter if we have multiple options. So native development starts with the part like you have to the performance in native applications are always higher. There was a study by Notion. Uh, a lot of us have used their application and they recently shifted from cross-platform UI elements to native and it increased their performance by 160%. So it's just an example how more efficient and high performing the native applications are. And when you're working on a specific operating system, let us say Android or iOS, you get a lot of features of that experience. Let us say permissions. So the way that we handle permission in iOS and Android is very difficult. iOS is very strict with the permissions. Android gives F to a point, but if you give them actual explanation, they let you get those critical permissions also. User experience for native apps are much more smoother as compared to cross-platform because cross-platform uses the same UI, whether it's iOS or Android or web. I'll show you the example also. Then cons is कि it takes a lot of time to maintain, develop and run in each application for different platforms. Like you need a specific team for Android devs, you need a team for iOS devs. Maintenance is also high because it increases the salary and cost for people to hire those folks and whatever the cycle goes on tech. Cross-platform is it takes less time to develop and it's also cheaper because you don't need a lot of folks to do it. You just need a single a single person can possibly write the code for the both Android and iOS. Then it's quite easy to market also because it allows you to quickly develop stuff rather than taking months to build it. And it's easier to maintain also because it's the same look across other platforms also, and you don't have to actually design a different UI for iOS and different UI for Android. Smallest example I can give you is of search bar in Android and iOS looks different because we follow material and I'm not sure which library do they follow to figure it out, iOS devs, but we have different UIs for that. Performances, we have a lot of low performance as compared to native because it's a bridge. So cross-platform works in a way you write a common code and it actually gets converted into native code only, but it's not handled by the developer, it's handled by the library itself. Like Flutter, all a framework handles it itself. Flutter uses JavaScript to convert it into Android or iOS code. Then talking about some platform specific, so let us say if you let us say if you are dealing with something that requires permissions, as the same example I gave you earlier. So it's quite difficult to handle the same source code for Android and iOS. And you'll end up writing checks if Android, if iOS. So it's much better. It's the problem with cross-platform. And it also feels a lot chunky as compared to platform specific. Imagine if you use, I'll give example of Zomato app only. If you use it on iOS and on Android, it seems different because we are using different design platform and principles. So if you're using the same UI on both, it looks a lot weirder because it's the same experience. Can be good for people who are developing it, but for the user who come from Android to iOS and see that paradigm shift, it's a bit harder to adjust to. Yeah, still. So summing up what I just said for native versus multi-platform. So most of the dominant Android players are still on native Android code, and we can talk about Amazon, we can talk about Swiggy, Zomato, Myntra, whatever the companies we know that we use Android apps for are still on native only. And a lot of new startups have a tendency of using multi-platform because it's easier to develop, less salaries to pay, easier to maintain. But since the devil lies in the detail, so a lot of big companies actually have to ship features to the perfection of it. That is why it takes a lot of time to figure out stuff. And as of now, the job for native Android is much higher than Flutter or React Native because that's what I've been seeing for the past few while, and that was one of the reasons I decided with Android with Kotlin rather than Flutter or something. So we'll start from where do I start? Does anyone have any question as of now?
If anyone has any doubt, you can raise hand.
Cool. Assuming no one has. Okay. Let me know when there's any doubt in the chat. I'll pause and I'll address it.
Okay.
Cool. So the point, where do I start? So the steps that I followed was key. You should first learn Java. It helps with your DSA. And once again, since even though this is a development based lecture, you should never think that DSA will reign supreme than development. It has to go hand in hand. DSC gets you shortlisted. Development is the stuff you have to do on the job. So it's important anyway. So you should, yeah, according to me, since you are most of you are in first or second year, is what I've heard. So you should start with Java. It will help you with your DSA too. You start doing Android development with Kotlin. So you'll learn fundamental concepts for Android development, and then yeah, comes the hard part of building projects and getting internships. So since we have a lot of now, there's a boom after COVID and tech jobs, so it's quite easy to get internships. You just need to have a good enough resume that speaks for you, that you know what you're doing. Then you have to start from small internships, get experience in building stuff, and till the time you are coming to your fourth year or the placement time, you'll have a good knowledge of the tech stack and you can directly start applying for jobs. It does not have to be on campus because I don't think we have, as of now, we have any specific company that comes to on campus for Android devs only. They generally come for software engineers with other tech stacks like web and all. But you have to master the tech stack and start applying. And now I'll tell you the roadmap for going on this. How do you start with Android? Just a second. Cool. So I've not created a roadmap according to my own preferences. It's just a general roadmap that I'm following for a while. So you have to initially decide with your language which one do you want to learn, the fundamentals, and it lies around how much time you're going to spend on something like your development ID used by us as Android Studio. You'll have to learn about that. You'll have to also learn about Kotlin and all of your stuff that you are taught in your computer science fundamentals like OOPS, computer networking. They all come into use a little bit, but you'll need to learn about them too. DSA is required because I know most of you might be thinking, ki, why do we need DSA? What are we doing in jobs? Are we sorting arrays? So it's not the case, but most of the time, whatever problem you're trying to solve can be solved using a data structure and a specific algorithm that you might have studied before. The most useful algorithm I've studied till date is LRU. I've been using it here and there in a lot of cases because that's the best fit we have for solving a lot of problems. Then Android system, Android has a build system known as Gradle. So what it does is it basically builds up your project and lets you use the whole ecosystem on how you want to build the app. You just write the code in Kotlin or Java, and it has the responsibility of converting it into the native code that runs on your device. Then you start off with creating a basic Hello World app, and that's just the basic of Android. Now you can say you know how to create an application, demo application. Then comes a part of version control system. This is something that you will require more and more when you start off with internships or contributing on projects. Can be college projects too. It's just an example. You'll need to learn GitHub. GitHub is the most prominent one. GitLabs is paid, so Git and GitHub is the prominent thing you need to learn. Then when you start off with app components, you'll realize there are a lot of underlying details in Android. The screen that you see, a single screen, is known as an activity. The stuff that runs in the background is known as services. I'll give you an example for each of these. Content provider is a scenario where you have, let us say, your application needs a resource that is used by another application. You need a content provider for that. Broadcast receiver is you want to let your application know if something has changed in the system. Let us say I toggled either the location or Wi-Fi of my device, and you want to do some action on that. And then you have some stuff known as intents, which is used to redirect from one screen to another. So these are all the implementing details that lie in Android. Then you come to layouts. It was mentioned, I have a proficiency in layouts. There are multiple types of ways of designing a UI. A UI which seems very simple on the front can be very complex, and the simpler the UI, the faster it loads. That is what we at Zomato do a lot of times. Is what we make a so the actual hierarchy we make, the list of things, buttons, etc. While we ship it, we have to make sure that it's the least amount of time it should take to draw that UI. So there are types of UI. There are frames. This can be considered a frame, seeing this whole layout left to right. Linear is as you see this layout, it's top to bottom, it's either horizontal or vertical. And you have relative, which means perspective. App components and interfaces are linked. The matlab, one has to be on bottom of the other, so it's linked. Then you have constraints. It's similar. It's not going into much detail for that. It will become very very boring for you guys. And then you have recycler views, which is used to display a list of items. Then it comes on. Now you know all about the UI elements, whatever there is. There are text views. used to display simple text. There are edit text, also known as input fields. So I'll just be skipping over the whole part. I won't be explaining every single one. It is for those of you who might find it interesting. Doing a deep dive will cause having a curiosity for the same will cause more learning rather than me telling you. And this is a topic that's little critical, Jetpack Compose. So the resources that I'll be showing you right now how to get started will also have a lot of reference about Jetpack Compose. And according to me, I've been working for a while now, so I know if you study everything about Jetpack Compose, it's a new way of writing UI rather than it uses the same element, but it's better. But the problem is a lot of new devs just skip the old existing system and directly jump to this. Then it becomes a problem while clearing the interviews because a lot of companies don't have migrated even to Jetpack Compose. We are in the process of migrating, but it's not yet production tested from Google also. Then you have design patterns. This is something you will learn in one, I'll say system design. So it's how you actually figure out a feature, how it has to work, how the data goes from one place to another, how do you store it, how do you write it, read it, and all those stuff. It comes into design patterns. It's required while building an application, and it's the most commonly asked question in an interview. Tell me the difference between these four. Why is one better? Why is the other one worse, etc. Then you come to the part where you require storage. As I said, you require your computer science fundamentals to be good because you need to store them in a DB, whatever you are building. So one of the most common applications you make is a notes application where the user enters something and you save it. So the next time you open the application, you want your notes to be saved, right? Because you have to see what you entered before. So one of the most common ways using a room database, it's an SQL, basically SQL table that you create with multiple entries, and you can store whatever you want to do that. It's a persistent storage. That is, when you reopen the application, it saves it until unless you format the whole application. Then making API calls is one of the most also one of the most critical stuff. Then when till this point you have covered the basics of Android, you can make any application that is given to you, whether it be it a calculator or a clone of Zomato itself. But when you come to the point, till this part, it's just the basic. Now you come to the point where you start making your app scalable. So assuming a lot of you might not be knowing about threads, so you need to do asynchronous programming to allow smoother app user interface. Like some things don't need to happen on the main thread itself. By main thread, what I mean is, let us say you are searching for something. I'll give you two scenarios. Let us say you are searching for something and you want the result. That is something you want in the real time. But let us say you have opened your application and you want to save some data that you are going to show later in the application. You don't want actually to block the user till the time that data processing is happening. That is where your asynchronous programming comes into the picture. Then you'll have to learn the concept of threads, how actually threads work, how do they manage their life cycle, what all methods we have of initiating threads, and there's an improvement in Kotlin known as coroutine. So then once again, you'll have to use these. Then you have third party integration. That's not that big of a hassle. Firebase. So assuming a little, I just want to know how many people out of you know about cloud. I guess not much. ठीक है, कोई नहीं. Cool. So basically, Firebase is a cloud written. It's a wrapper written over Google Cloud, and it allows the an easy interface and easy handling for stuff for Android or mobile developers, I'll say. So these are all the services they offer. They offer you login authentication using. They have a lot of providers. They give you Google, etc. They also give you crash report for your crashes that's happening in your app. Then config is a settings based system. Basically, you store a value here that tells you key whether it's true or false. And if you want to have a distinction on real time, once again giving an example, let us say you open your application and you want to check it from server whether this feature is enabled or not. So it is similar to that. On every app open or whatever is your scenario, you give a call to Firebase. It tells you with the value stored for your case is true or false. Then you have cloud messaging, and cloud messaging is the part where you see notifications. So a lot of apps send you notification, let us say Grow or Zomato itself. So that comes under cloud messaging. These are all the critical part of an application that makes it attractive or user friendly, I'll say. Then you have Google Maps. So all these third party integrations are quite simple if you and easy if you know how to build the stuff that you have built. Then linting is not required at the initial stages to figure out how to learn stuff. And distribution part is once again, it comes when you have to release an app on the Play Store. but it's quite simple when you look at it. Anyone has any question as of now? I think so. Note. Okay, cool. Here once again uh, the documentation that I'm referring to, or the roadmap that I was telling you. In order to learn from it, you'll have to refer to the official Android developers uh, documentation. It's quite easy. You can also refer to some YouTubers. I'll tell you those names too. And these are the courses that I refer to. I've been working for a while, and this is where I gain most of my knowledge from. And here's the topic that I was telling you about, compose. So compose, it's just starting. Since you're getting started, you should learn. I'll show you a walkthrough of something simpler. So here you can find trainings about every single stuff that is required in Android development. You have got coroutines that I was talking to you about, threads. So and you have also have architecture that tells you which architecture to use. You can also start learning from Kotlin from here itself. It will tell you. Then you have options whether you know Java or you don't even know Java and you're just starting with Kotlin. And for people who are just who know a little bit of Java, you can directly and have done Android or worked on it with Java, you can directly start for switching it, and it will tell you how similar it is to Java, and then they'll teach you how to write code in Kotlin for Android. You also have some certification, but these are not required. These are required in the case when you're graduating from college and you don't have any, I'll say, internship experience. These can help you in getting put up on the recruiter radar, but your experience speaks more than your certifications that you have. So we'll start off with a very simple one. I'll show you. Give me a second. They'll just give you a walkthrough how easy they have built Android to learn. They give you a simple goals and description what you'll be doing. Then they have divided it into units. So they'll teach you how to build your first Android application, and it has to be basics. And it starts off with setting up your Android Studio. You'll see. I'll show you expanded view. Give me a second. हाँ जी, तो it tells you how to get started. It has all the documentation that you want to read, and I'm skipping it for the part because I've done this a number of times. It tells you what all the developers we have working on it. Uh, Second part, yep, and they also have video instructions for every single step that they are teaching, so it becomes much easier to understand anything that you might get stuck on. Yep, and here comes the part where you learn Kotlin. So they have built a small Kotlin program. You can see getting started, skipping this. This is known as a playground where it's I don't know how many of you have do know about REPL. So REPL is a small environment that sets up your programming environment, and it gives you the flexibility to toggle with it. And so basically for Java, in order to run any program written in Java, you need to have JDK installed in your system that allows you to run it. And in order, Kotlin has the flexibility of having an online playground. I'll show you. So this right here has Kotlin set up in itself, and you don't need to any install anything, and you can just go on and play with the syntax of Kotlin. So this allows you of skipping the hassle of setting up the whole IDE, downloading stuff, and then figuring out how to get started. It's a pre-set up environment. You can use it to learn Kotlin, play with the syntax, arrays, etc., whatever you want to do. Then give me a second. Yep, and then it tells you the basics of programming itself. A very small part of OOPS is writing a function abstraction, distinguishing the code, differentiating the code and grouping it. So it tells you the analogies you can use to figure out how things work, how to group a stuff, and what all a function should do. How do you define a function in Kotlin? So this is for the very basics. When you're getting started to a language, you need to learn everything. How do you define a function? It's a keyword fun that you use, and how do you define the variables in the function arguments as we call it, and how do you return the value that is supposed to be returned. It gives you also an introduction about how should function bodies be written. So once again, for a lot of you, these might be the very basics of writing a computer program, but these are required when you are just getting started. And since every single language has a way of formatting the code, since Python uses indentation, and if you mess up indentation on a specific line, the whole program won't run. It's not the same in Kotlin, but you have to just keep a track of opening braces and closing braces so that you don't actually write an extra brace and it messes up the compilation. And so it also has a formatting style itself, and you don't actually have to do it on your own. There's a lot of shortcuts that you can use while doing this in IDs. I'll show you that too. And then it also tells, the good part is it also tells you how to handle errors. Like this program will give you an error, and it's the very simplest error you can see. Errors get a lot complex when you're working on something. And yep. So that's a basic intro. I'm just giving you an example key what all there is, and you have to. It's a simple like we have in our colleges key. It's a program. Find out the output or get this output using a program. So it starts from the very basic, and then it also tells you what all did you learn. Then you come back and you see you have variables, you have functions, you also have basics, and then you have a quiz at the end. So what it also helps you is it gives you a badge for whatever all you have completed. I'm not signed in, that's why my badges are not visible. But it's your that's how one should learn Android according to me. And also there are a lot of YouTubers out there who actually put some good amount of research into building what they're building. And yep, that's all I guess. Let me see if I've missed anything. Nope. And the best stuff I'll tell you about Android is there's a lot of good videos put up by these developers on their YouTube channel. So let us say you have a lot of stories coming in from big tech companies. Zomato is also featured it, but you have a video from Z5 telling about how did they actually handle their implementation of using too many videos. Then you also get a regular update from them that tells you what's new in Android, what's new releases. You have Google Play also. Google I/O was also featured here. It tells you what all did they release. And I'll show you the best example. Let us say I have to learn about something. This is a concept in Android. So there's a video of it uploaded 5 years ago. And this is the best video I could find on the market that can tell you what this exact thing is. And it goes step by step. There's also a lot of talks by people on it. So these are actually the people who builded this stuff. So rather than learning from someone who actually used it, I can directly learn it from the people who actually coded this. These are software engineers that work at Google, and they tell you what they built, what was the use case. So the biggest, and if you have to learn something, the smallest one you can look for is a small introduction video like here, 530. And if you have to learn how did they figure it out, how did they actually do it, what goes under the hood, you'll have to listen to a talk from Google I/O or Android Dev Summit. And yep, so I guess that was it. Someone has a question, I guess. Roshan, you want to ask something? Guys, I'm open to questions now. I'm done with my presentation of how to get started.
If anyone
Anji,
has
you
any
Roshan,
can.
you can
kindly
open your
put
mic.
it as an option.
Anji.
Am I audible now?
Anji.
So, like some of the students like me, they started Java for the Android development, and now we're going to explore like how we're going to develop Android application using Java. But instead of going to Kotlin directly, we want to just export through Java itself. So, is there any proper guided way?
Yeah, guided way. The issue is the documentation that I just showed you. They have shifted to Kotlin because they want new people to learn Kotlin itself. But if you have to Google, like if you let us say you want to make a notes application using Java, so if you Google it, you will find the blogs
Like
out there.
I want to I want to specifically work in the Java itself. So, asking if you can show a proper pathway for them.
Proper pathway. I'll show you around how do we do that. Uh, the only issue with working with Java is you can do that, but we have stopped writing new code in Java. Every single company has stopped writing. I'll prepare it. My screen is as well, right?
Yes, sir.
So you can. So the thing, how you have to learn it, you have to refer to some third-party website like GFG or either go to GitHub Topics and learn it. So you can also. It's not like that you won't find anything in Java. There exists a lot of code in Java, and in fact, they have given you the whole source code itself. It's taking a while to load. Queenie, so here you can find there's a whole source code for Java itself. This is a class written in Java, main
Okay,
activity.java.
sir.
So you can find resources for that, but the issue is whenever someone is looking to hire you, the first thing they'll ask you whether you know Kotlin or not. Kotlin is
Okay.
not a different language. It's just, I'll say very simple terms. It's just a wrapper written on Java. It makes your life very, very easier.
Okay, sir. Thanks
So
for
you can
answering.
find resources for that. Uh, there's one more question. Kirti, you can ask your question.
Hi. Uh,
Anji, you're audible. I think your voice. Nope, I'm not able to hear anything.
Hi. I just want to ask that are certifications important for the job role? Because if we learn from YouTube, then certificates are not there or any other resources. So actually,
Valid question. And so it works like this. If you have learned it from YouTube and you get one or two internships on Android that show that you know Android development, you don't need certifications for that case. But let us say if you are learning it from Udemy, so if you don't have internships, your certifications matter, whether from Udemy or I'll say Android developers official. But you have, if you have worked on internships, it will be good enough to get you an interview at any internship or job itself.
okay.
And it's much better, according to me, it's much better to do hit and trial in the open market after learning from YouTube or something similar than getting an internship because you learn much more in an internship than what you learn in a course. So that's how I did it, and that's how it works. Nadeem has a question. Nadeem, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, do you think big tech companies will be switching to Flutter or other cross-platform technologies anytime soon?
No, yeah, not anytime soon. I wrote an application for Zomato in Flutter itself, and I know what problem lies in when you're working with stuff that. So the more you go into detail of how efficient a thing can be, the more problematic it becomes because it's little new to the market. So migrating a whole source code right now is not a possibility because I'll give you an example. So even if our smallest applications also have around 2 or 3 lakhs of lines of code, so it's not quite easy to migrate those. But big tech companies right now are not switching. If you are building something new, then Flutter is a good thing to try with. But no one that I've heard of a very big company directly starting off from Flutter or even Compose, for example. They start off with a single page, but since it's a different tech stack, you need to build a whole application. So right now, no one is switching directly to Flutter. But if you want to learn it, go for it. Bhai. You are just in starting year of your college, so there is no pressure right now to think of job because if you know Flutter, you will understand how stuff works in other languages or platforms or frameworks. Then you can implement or relate it to your core thing that you work on. Yes. Ha. Kirti has a question again. Hanji.
Yeah. Sir, I just actually want to ask you which is easy for the beginner, like Kotlin or Java. I haven't studied.
Yeah, Java will help you in your DSA also. So get started with Java because a lot of people use Java as a platform, with Java as the language for their DSA interviews. And then You can also learn Kotlin. It's not very difficult. Once you learn Java, you'll see it's just a difference of syntax, how we write stuff. It's a wrapper written over Java itself. So under the hood, it actually uses Java. So if since you're a beginner, you should first learn Java. If you are planning to do DSA in Java, and if you're planning to do DSA in Python or C++, then you can directly start with Kotlin. There is no hard limitation to learn Java.
Okay. So actually, I want to ask that certificate is not that important or for
Your
DS.
voice was cut in between. Can you please repeat?
Yeah, I just want to ask that certificate was is not that important or what?
Certificates. So I was just giving you a scenario. Let us say you learned something from a YouTube course and you got an internship after that. So the internship certificate will speak for itself, and you won't require the certificate for your course. But let us say you got an example where you didn't get an internship. So in order to get an internship, you'll have to show that course certificate. So you can pick up any course from Udemy that gives you a certificate. I know it's a big issue while getting started in college that people need to see a certificate to know that you know your development or not. तो यूडमी से कोई भी रैंडम कोर्स उठा लो अबाउट एंड्रॉइड चेक द स्टार्स ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कोई भी वर्स्ट केस उठा लिया आपने check the search you Android development on Udemy and you'll find some good courses. तो किसी का भी उठा लो, pick it up and learn it from there and also learn from other places. आपको certificate मिल जाएगा anyway. Then use it to apply for internships.
Okay.
Anyone else has any question? Okay, Dhruv, I don't think anyone has any question. But in case any of you has a question about how to get started and stuff, तो ping me on LinkedIn. I'll reply you when I get the time to. थोड़ा hectic schedule रहता है. But ठीक है.
It was an insightful session. Thank you, everyone. I'm sure after this, you all are ready to kickstart a journey in the field of app development. Also, it's time to reveal the surprise you all were waiting for. As we reach the midway of TechX, we are thrilled to announce the upcoming closing ceremony scheduled for Sunday, that is February 28, 2024, in Microsoft's office. This exclusive event promises a remarkable conclusion to our TechX journey. Selected participants will have the unique opportunity to join us for the special occasion. Stay on the lookout for registration form which will be shared soon. Join us in the marking the end of TechX at a location filled with excitement and anticipation. Be sure to mark the date and get ready for a memorable conclusion to TechX. Another excitement announcement for you all. Dive into the coding frenzy at Hackhazzards, IPU's one of the largest offline hackathon. Mark your calendars for March 3rd week, that is 16th and 17th March 2024. We are doing something special and you all are part of it. And guess what? There are cool prizes, not for just champs, but for everyone. Details coming your way soon. So get excited and buckle up for the part to be a part of Hackathons, more than a hackathon in which you will explore, create, innovate, and win. Thank you everyone. As we conclude this event, we encourage you all to seek out new challenges and pushing the boundaries of what you can accomplish. With that being said now, it's time to wrap up this session. It was really good to see your enthusiasm and passion till the end. But before we end, I urge everyone to scan the QR code and get yourself enrolled in the Hackathons.